I'm not sure.
That's fine.
So,
In case it's down, I will keep you notified. No worries.
please keep me updated. Okay. So, topic is this managing and mitigating cyber threats into power sectors. So over here, I have set up small agenda. I have set up small agenda over here. Primarily these. We'll be talking about some technical aspects also, some compliance aspects also, and some of the experiences that I will share. I have audited many power organizations also. So we'll discuss about a little bit on the terminologies, then OT, ICS, and SCADAs, some anatomies of attacks, some attack surfaces. We'll try to show some demos also within a short span of time. Let's see. We'll discuss about some OT technologies, industrial control systems, hacking case studies. 2 or 3 case studies I have prepared. Let's see, and also some SCADA pen test checklist and some standard framework for ICS security. So as usual, can you help me this one? This last, I mean, it is this pop-up screen is actually,
You're able to see it, or you're finding some challenge?
no, I mean, are you being able to see
Yeah, we're
full
able to see
slide?
your screen perfectly. Please go ahead. We can see
Okay,
the
because
screenshot of the news article.
the last portion somehow, the bottom portion of is getting covered by this auto pop-up. Uh,
Okay. Maybe I think that's something at your end. We
okay,
can see the,
you can
um,
see now the full slide,
yeah, I
right?
can see the full side. Power has gone out in Ukraine due to cyber attack
Okay.
outage.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thanks. So as usual, I start with some incidents that we can relate it, why it is required. See, you see, the Russian hackers targeted 20 energy facilities in Ukraine amid intense missile strikes. So as you can see, this is an more or less latest news, April 23rd, 2024. So the power has gone out in Ukraine due to cyber attacks. And the power outage lasted less than a day. So the groups used a little known backdoor called Capica. Okay, the Capica mainly being used to deploy ransomware like Prestige ransomware. So this is an incident. Another, we can see Chinese hackers target power grid near Ladakh. Okay, you might have read it into the newspapers. Telangana substation attacked by Chinese malware. So Chinese group Redico targeted these Indian power sectors in Telangana. So then Shadowpad command and control, I'll come to that C2C, command and control servers were used to launch this attack. So we all know about these data powers. So data hacked from the data power server leaked into deep web. Hive ransomware gang, claimed for these. So you also know about Colonial Pipeline attack. It's basically an American pipeline that carries, gasoline and jet fuel. They suffered a major ransomware cyber attack, and that impacted their fuel transportation, and they had to stop this transportation for a couple of hours. So if you see this is an ongoing cyber, attacks as they occur in real time. So I just like to show you on these. As you can see, these are near real-time data. In the right-hand side, you can see the top attacks, top countries. You can see uh, United Airlines, India, Japan, and also the top applications violation. You can see that injections. Injection is the type of attack that generally we found. There are different types of injections, like SQL command injections that is generally found into the applications. Access violations, exploits, I'll come to that. Data theft, cross-site scripting. That is a cross-site scripting again is an your application vulnerability. So I can see that the top are 29% are of injections. Okay. So this is a near real time attacks visualization. So before that, I would like to come first some terminologies. So in respect to terminologies, there are OT. So OT basically refers to computing system that are used to manage industrial operations. So it can be a mining operation control, oil and gas monitoring, etc. Then industry ICS. So major segment with it is an OT. ICS is basically a major segment within the OT used to monitor control industrial process. So ICS are typically mission critical applications. So it's basically in power consumptions, refinery oil, large manufacturing, large petrochemical plants also you find this. Sorry, you will find this. Then supervisory SCADA. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisitions. So ICSs are often managed by SCADA. It basically provides a graphical user interface for operators to easily observe the status of the systems. So here is some graphical representations. You can see OT, ICS, PLC, programmable logic control, distributed programmable control, SCADA. So typical SCADA configurations looks like these. You have a control unit, you have a RIM, RTU. RTUs are, these control units. RTUs you need to check when you go for the security audits, what protocols are they are using, whether they are using any outdated protocols, because in SCADA and all, you cannot run tools like OT directly. That will have a devastating, business impact. So area, might go down. There may be power sabotage. So now, what are the ways the energy sector vulnerable? See, the decentralized location and global supply network, which broaden the attack surface. So supply chain networks is global and that broadens the attack surface. Financial attacks from threat actors such as nation states, criminals, and all. Gaps between IT and OT. There are a lot of gaps between IT and OT. I'll come to this point later on. Increased digitization. You can't help with the increased digitization. As you know, the attack surface also increases. Third-party vendor. You will see the third-party vendor have a remote access to the OT system. I have seen in many plants. Third, they are totally dependent on, major portion dependent on third-party vendors. And third-party vendors, I have seen, I mean, then they are not, what I'll say, they don't bother, or they are not, they are not acquitted. They don't care about the consequences and all. And many cases, they are not trained also in cybersecurity. So that is a challenge. Okay. And challenge for legacy systems. So OT, SCADA, ICS, they use legacy systems a lot. There are challenges also why they can't change this. I'll come to that. Shodan. So you see how the attack surface increases. I mean, when you talk about attack surface of ICS, Shodan comes first. So how hackers finds the ICS in internet? So Shodan is basically developed by John McCarthy in 2019. So unlike other search engines, it looks for specific informations that can be invaluable to hackers. So Shodan pulls service banners from servers, devices, mostly majorly port 80, but also port FTP port, SSH port, Telnet port, SNMP, these all. So you see, every device nowadays have a web interface, and with the increased digitization, this is rapidly increasing. So we can access numerable web-enabled servers, network devices into Sodan. So Sodan can find us webcams, traffic signals, video projectors, CCTV cameras, many things, SCADA systems, OT systems. So here is how you go for a showdown. And let me walk you through this first. So this is how the showdown looks like. So you can search it over here with many keywords. I have given a search over here, MongoDB. So we are trying to find MongoDB data servers which have open authentication over the public internet. So let us see. Yes. So you see the open authentication available publicly. You see, it's showing that the partially enabled authentication. But now let us say this is from China. As you can see, this is from Jakarta, Indonesia. So let us say I enter into this. There may be a little bit, excuse me. Meeting actually. Sorry, actually some hotel I came. So as you can see, these are the ports that are opened over here. Okay. And some database also I can see the vulnerabilities also you can see with the CV number like this. So this is all basically helps a attacker see the CV numbers. So that means these are exploitable. If some hackers exploits these CVs, then there is a danger. Okay. And also you can see what all ports are open over here, right? So this is for another one. So these all basically increases, SSL certificate details, the vulnerability is also CVs you can see. These are this, and you can see that this is a critical one. So what I'm trying to say is that these all increases the attack surface. And in majority of assessments, this needs to be covered actually. See, this is another querying FTP for Pro FTP, a popular FTP server. So find Apache web server with port 80. See. Now also, you can explore these. You go to now I go to industrial control system. I can go to database, infrastructure, video games. So let's go to industrial control systems. So I can see there are Modbus. Modbus is basically a popular protocol used by ICS. Siemens S7 protocol, DNP protocols is also being used widely in ICS. So let us say I want to go to Modbus protocols, or I can go to for the Siemens S7 communication protocols. And you see, I can see the devices over here. Okay. So a lot of informations attackers gathers through this. Same way, you can go to the Siemens S7 DNP protocols. This is fully for your, industrial control systems. You can go to the database sections also. I have already shown one database like that. See, MySQL, MongoDB. So let's go to MySQL, explore MySQL. So these you can see these are already I can see these are few are from China, few are from France. This is from France. I can go and let us see. I can see for these assets. For these assets, you see, I see the IPs addresses, I see all the ports that are opened, I see the vulnerabilities also, impactful vulnerabilities. Not all vulnerabilities are listed, some of the impactful vulnerabilities are listed over here. So you can explore all these. Windmills, databases, CCTV cameras, webcams. So now let's talk about Google a little bit. So what I'm talking about now is basically attack surface. So we have seen the Sodans, and now Google also can be used to gather a lot of informations. We use some Google Docs. So one such docs, in title is a docs that restrict the search result to pages that contain the word in the title, in title login. So it will return all the pages that have the login in the keyword. So let us say try to HMI, just to tell you that HMI stands for Human Machine Interface. It's an interface used into majorly into the SCADA and ICS. So I would like to find out some of these pages. So let's go to. Oh, I found one. Let us see. See, their option for remote control and all. I can see and explore all these. Okay. So Google is also a attack surface. Hackers use Google's a lot. These are technically called uh, Google Doc. See the file browsers in. I don't want to go inside much more. So passwords also can be stealed like this. I mean the only. I mean those who are exposed like or misconfigured like this. Here is another interesting one. So let us see the SQL password dumps saved in the database. So this is an interesting one. What I'm trying to do over here is, let me explain that I'm just using a door. Okay, ext SQL specifies the type of the password dumps. Huh? So this is the hash, simple hash, MD5 hash. Hash you might be knowing. Hash and encryption is not same. They're different. I'm talking about the hash. So this gibberish what we have written E starting from E to the last E is basically the MD5 hash of the password 123456 that is widely used. So one of the most common passwords. So I'm trying this index tool doc. It will allow us to search inside the dump, SQL dumps that are using these passwords. So let's see. I got some. See many things over here. Structure. I can see insert into, as you can see, the entire the password has there. I can see Amit Datta, their Gmail IDs and hash. Okay, so table structure and okay. So one disclaimer over here. These all are we are sharing for the knowledge purpose. Hope you will not misuse it. So you see how password being stored, this from Google Doc using. So SQL password dump saved into database. So these vulnerable websites also. Index of admin, index of password, index of PWD, This index of dist, this gives you a lot of, directory structures. These all happen, this because in the web server, the directory browsing is enabled. And that's why we are being able to see this. Talking about to some threads, these are some of the network threads. There are many. So some just we have written like information gathering, sniffing, spoofing, session hijacking, man in the middle, password-based attacks. These are the primary, very primary threads. And as you know, the threads are very evolving. So regularly the new threads are there that comes on into the picture. So these are threads for the host. So malware attacks, footprinting, password attacks, denial of service attacks, unauthorized access, privilege escalation. So you are running an account as a guest. So someone launch and exploits and takes privilege of admin. So these are backdoor attacks. Backdoor attacks are rampant. That can be used in Trojans, using rootkits, and all. So application threats, yes, in ICS environment, they also use a lot of applications, right? So majority we have seen that they say, no, these are internal applications, sir. So let us say, giving an example, they did not implement SSL. So the consequences can be devastating. Even though it is an internal application, someone may run some packet sniffer. I have a demo over here. That stealing, using a packet sniffer like Wireshark, stealing login credentials. So they don't understand that someone at some corner might sniff the packet and can see the credentials if those are into plain text. Not all. I mean, this is the general answers I get from when you audit to power sectors, that these applications are internal applications. So the risk is low, like this. So if you consider the anatomy of attacks comes like this: recon, scan, gaining access, maintaining access, clearing the tags. So when you talk about the recons, the attacker gather information. So the recon, you see the recon, if you talk about ICS environment, that there are multiple ways to do the recons. Two I have shown you. Shodan, Google Docs. There are many such like Shodans. Those helps an attacker to gather a lot of informations on the organizations, on the assets, which are publicly exposed or whose banner or whose web interface are publicly exposed. Then they immediately start scanning those, like what all ports are open, what are services running, what are their versions running, what are OSs are running. So they use tools like Nmap, AMAS scanner. Then they gain access. So for gaining access, they exploit the vulnerabilities, and exploits are available freely. There are a lot of exploitation frameworks that are available, starting from Metasploit to many. And for that, they spoof the IP so that they do not get caught. Then they maintain access. So attacker creates a backdoor. Now that there are many ways to create backdoors. There can be RAT, I mean remote access trojans. There can be rootkits. There are many ways to create backdoors. So they create backdoors and make sure that they can access the infrastructures and they cover the tracks. The covering tracks is very important, critical for them. So they delete the logs, temper the logs, so that when incident response are done, I mean when forensic investigations are done, performed, the investigator will get confused, or he will not get a log, or he will get log with the temper. So that is why in these cases, I'll come to a guideline that Ministry of Power, Central Electrical Authority has released. We'll come to that. So in Recon, you see there are a lot of ways. So just one websites I can wants to show you, that is uh, viewed here. As you can see that just I'm looking for a reverse IP lookup. As you can see, there are 8 domains hosted in this server. So there are many things, you can do IP DNS report, you can find out. You can do MX lookups, many things you can do it from DNS test, many things, email lookups. Okay. So this is a good one. AMAS. AMAS is also a good tool for network, mapping. Just a moment. So it's basically mapping for attack surface and external asset discoveries, information gathering, which does subdomain enumeration, information gathering, and also it's visualize the enumeration result. The map is not over here. I've just given a screenshot. A simple, passive scanning, as you can see the comments, enumeration, passive, then target. So Recon, we talked about Shodan, we talked about Amos, we talked about dangerous Google Docs. There are many sites like Sodans uh, and other utilities also, tools also that helps for reconnaissance. And these basically, hackers collects information about your industrial control systems through these basic informations, and this increases the attack surface also. So scanning the target network, now it's scanning. So we all know about this. So I don't. I just want demo of this one. Nmap we use, for host discovery. The port scanning is a open source tools that widely being used. So some of the there are many switches. Some of the switches I'll just talk about touchdown. So this is host discovery ping scan, but port scan is disabled in this case. This is just I'm trying to discover in a network what all assets are there, their IPs and all, and I'm trying to copy them into in a parsable file. PN switch. So port scan without ping, the situation where ping is blocked. In many cases, ping also you will get the ping is blocked. So before, as I go through, so let's show you a demo of Nmap. So I'm just trying to scan a IP. Make sure that you don't scan anything live IP, as you know, statutory declarations. This is just a IP in my VM. Don't ever scan any live sites. You may be in the trouble. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just do a aggressive scan over here. Aggressive scan sense trying to gather as much as the information for and then you click the scan. It is in the Windows environment. In Kali Linux environment, there is over here it's called so minus V for verbose, my A switch for aggressive scans, and T4 is the optimal timing. So as you can see that scanning has already started. It has already started discovering open ports and all. So let it scan, and meantime we go back to our slide. So I'm using Kali Linux over here. Kali Linux, I'm trying to scan 0 to 30,000 ports. As you can see, it's showing us all the ports that are open, the services that are running. Over here, I'm trying to identify the operating system that target is running, O switch. I want to know what IP protocols the target is having. So I can see that they are using the protocol ICMP, TCP, UDP. So over here, I'm trying to scan a specific port. I'm trying to scan port 135. So nmap minus P is the switch port number and then target. So you can see that it is open in the result. Over here, I'm trying to do some service version detection scan. As you can see that Microsoft Windows RPC is running. I'm trying to do some UDP scans. SU is the switch for this. I'm trying to scan all the ports now. This is an ultimatum. It takes a lot of times. But don't use this because this will high chances your system will be down. I mean, if you run this, it will create through such a packets and your system might get down. So let us come back to this tool and let's see. As you can see over here that these are, I can see the port 21 open. It is running VSTP. It's a FTP service. This is the version I can see 2.3.4. So now what generally an attacker or hacker does is basically he will try to find the exploit of this service. So I have a demo for these also, VSTP in these slides. So I can see 22 is open, OpenSSH is running, 23 is also open, Telnet. So you can see all the ports that are open, the services. I can see port 80 open, Apache HTTPD, these versions is running, this version is vulnerable, highly vulnerable. Okay. So you can see all these ports, you can see the MySQL informations also and all. Okay. So a lot of informations as I have given aggressive scans. Now moving, so these are very basic fundamentals. This is mainly common for you the scanning IT and OT sector also. So when you go to ICS components, so there are numerous control loops. There are many human interfaces. There are many remote diagnostics. So one human interfaces already I have shown you. We found it through Google Docs. Then maintenance tools built using array of network protocols. So there are a lot of network proprietary protocols, that is also another reason why these are so vulnerable. I'll come to that. Many legacy protocols they run and they don't get support from the OEMs because taking downtime is critical. And in many of the cases, OEMs do not support. I mean, they didn't release the protocols because they have the dependency, maybe with the MRU, maybe with the controllers, maybe with the sensors. So the situation is very complex in power sector and energy sectors. So these are the few of the protocols that ICS protocols. There are many, but I have listed down few that I come across while auditing. So now I'll discuss some tools about industrial control systems. So there is a framework, Modbus penetration testing framework. Okay, so we call it as a SMOD. It's a popular framework with every kind of diagnostic and offensive features you could need in your ICS environment. So this can be used to perform vulnerability assessment. Then we have ModScan. This tool is designed to map SCADA Modbus TCP-based networks. Another good is SCADA shutdown. So this basically automation and testing tool. No, you can enumerate slave. It can enumerate your slave controllers. It can read controllers, register values, and all. It is also a good tool. Snap 7. It's available both into 32-bit and 64-bit multi-platform Ethernet communication suite. Natively basically used into your Siemens, because in ICAs you will find a lot of sensors, RTUs of Siemens. They run Siemens PLC and all. So you can use that time. Another good one is industrial exploitation framework. So these exploitation frameworks are basically, based on Python and similar to Metasploit framework. Metasploit, as you know, is a full-fledged exploitation framework. So it's like a Metasploit framework. So a lot of exploits and all are built into this. And then cybersecurity evaluation tools. CSET, this is also a very good tool, but very comprehensive, very, very comprehensive, and very useful if you know how to use this tool properly. So these tools, basically, I'm having some screenshot of this tool. I'll try to show you. So these tools basically provides users with a systematic, repeatable approach, for assessing the security posture of an organization. Then there are some distributions also. We have like Kali Linux is a distribution, right? So for ICS industrial control systems, Moki Linux you can find. So it's nothing just a modification of Kali Linux but incorporates, they have incorporated many SCADA and ICS controls tools actually. So Moki Linux you can use it. Then another Samurai STFU also has tools. This is basically specialized testing tools for energy sectors. People use it. So this includes your emulators of SCADA, smart meters. You can emulate the smart meters. SCADA is a part, not the entire SCADA, but a part of the SCADAs, some sensors, and other types of energy systems. So we talked about industrial control systems tools, few tools. There are many. I've listed down a few tools. We talked about ICS distributions. Distributions helps you a lot because it comes as a pre-configured. In earlier cases, the tools that I have discussed, you have to install it on Kali Linux or Ubuntu and all, and configure it manually. Then when you talk about defensive, when you are advising the CISOs of power ICS, power houses, and all, you also, I believe, we generally talk about honeypots also today, right? So Conpot, you can use this. It's a low interactive server-side industrial control system honeypots, and easy for customization also. There are another honeypots also, TPOTs. So TPOTs is an all-in-one multi-purpose platform honeypots. It's a combination of several honeypots to run into Docker container. So that also you can use. So as I said, I have some screenshots for these two tools. One is industrial exploitation framework, and another is cybersecurity evaluation tool. So industrial exploitation framework, they have exploit modules, they have a scanner modules, They have ICS protocol modules built using SCAPI. So, some screenshots I'm just showing you some exploit modules. You can see PLC controls in the left hand side. There are modules names and the path where you can find out, and the descriptions. Okay, so and in the bottom you can see some scanner modules. So this is a pretty good tool. I mean, this is an evaluation tool developed by US Critical Infrastructures Agency, CISA. You might be aware of. It's a free desktop software that guides the organization through a step-by-step process to evaluate their cybersecurity practices, process, postures. It prompts a series of detailed questionnaires. It automatically prompts you questionnaires based on the option you select. I'll come to that. So detailed questions about your architecture, operational policies, procedures of the organizations. Then these questions are based on NIST cybersecurity framework, 800.161, supply chain management, payment card industry, etc. So once the self-assessment questionnaire is completed, the CSS presents a dashboard showing the areas of strengths and weakness and where to improve along with the remediations. So this is just how the CSET screens looks like. You click on the start a new assessment, the assessment starts. So the first step is select one or more standards. And the second is about your weighted answers, determining assurance level. So it's basically you need to respond to a set of questions related to the potential consequences of a successful attacks. According to the user's response, CSET will determine the security and assurance level. So you need to answer the questions properly. Okay, and then in the third step, it uses they have a GUI, that creates the organization's network topology and define organizations cybersecurity zones, critical components, network communication paths, etc. And fourth, it generates questions using the selected security standards and determines a security assurance level and the network topology as its basis. Means as on start, you can say. So the users are expected to select the best answers to each questions according to the security posture of the organizations. And here is the final fixed analysis and report generation. You can see this showing you the assessment compliance. It's showing you the top ranked categories. It's where you need to improve, like access control, account management, monitoring, and malware, physical security, and all. Okay, and so this is the dashboard, and from dashboard you can also take the reports also. So moving to background, operational technologies background. You see, traditionally, industry control systems operated in isolation. So the objective was to seamlessly integrate multiple physical systems over a common network. So industrial systems like SCADA architecture was designed before the cybersecurity. So this is a crucial point that we all need to understand, that these SCADA systems architectures came before actually, the cybersecurity was an issue. So when they designed all these protocols and sensors, RTUs, MRUs, that time, cybersecurity was not much an issue. So OT, unlike commercial technology, continues to operate old standards, insecure and sometimes proprietary. So in proprietary protocol, it's difficult. So overall philosophy is, if it is working, don't fix it. This is the philosophy, more or less. So the reality is ICS are no longer isolated in static systems nowadays. So they are connected to the enterprise networks. If you see in the right hand diagram, you see there is a firewall, and you see the IT and OT is connected through a firewall. And in majority of the cases, you will find this, right? So no coverage of OT assets for vulnerabilities and configurations. No visibility into the unique pattern and protocols of the ICS attacks. But now network only OT solutions are basically blind to change formal from local maintenance, lack of context of endpoint, their security. These all comes into the pictures. Outdated asset inventory. These all in many cases asset register is not there. Asset inventory is really outdated. We have seen these from our experiences. See, threats to industrial control systems, there can be many. I just written, I have threes over here. There can be external threats, targeted attacks, malicious insiders. So insider threats that generally organization overlook are very dangerous. Then human error and negligence, unintentional mistakes, insecure contract equipments on site, these all. So you talk about OT's background. So OTs are often managed via SCADA. Sorry, industrial control systems are often managed via SCADA. So SCADA provides a GUI to operate for easily observe. Why? Because I'm saying this because these are a little bit important to get familiar with these terminologies and technologies a little bit, like what is used for what or which does what. So SCADA provides a GUI for operators to easily observe the status of the systems, receive alarms indicating out of band operation, and blah. So SCADA display the process under the controls. So the transmission of network is also monitored through these and all. Okay. So it measures, monitors, and controls electrical power grid. And in the right hand side, you can see the diagram itself. So SCADA consists of RTU, MTU, HMI. So HMI one I have already shown you over here. So the protocols use DNP, Modbus, IEC 60870. So the Modbus is widely used in industrial. If you go for audit, you will find the ICS are using, SCADA is using outdated Modbus protocols and all. Okay. So this is some general layout, control centers. There are field centers, and you see the SCADA system consists of primarily control centers and 3 field centers. Point-to-point connections are used for all control centers to field side communicate. So you can see we have a field side 1, field side 2, and field side 3. This is more or less general. Okay. Field sites can be accessed remotely for troubleshooting and maintenance operations. So whenever you are accessing something remotely, then again, your remote access policy comes into picture. So now, what are the security challenges for the SCADA? DNP, these protocols, Modbus and all were designed for connectivity, not for security. That we need to understand. Okay. So OS designs for control automations and all lack security features. Most of the physical devices are obsolete, whereas others have insufficient memory spaces. This is true. Majority of the sites have obsolete Windows systems because they have a dependency. It's not like that they do not want to change. They want to change, but they have a huge business impacts. Downtime, getting downtime is also difficult. There can be serious impacts in either generation or transmission. Okay, then you will find the misconfigured network devices. You'll find the outdated softwares, proprietary protocols, outdated protocols, no proper access controls. These all are the security challenges. So historically, it's a myth. Air-gapped OT systems are now online, basically. And myths persist about how the systems are operated and secure. So air gapping is the only way to assure security in OT systems. This is a myth. Fact is, even if it's unlikely case, the air gap systems can be hacked. It can be hacked into such as laptops, USBs, and with the light wavelength listening. Another myth: a firewall will protect my OT and network. Okay, so firewall alone is not sufficient, to protect your network perimeters. There can be many intruders and all. Another myth: no external connection that I was talking about exists besides the connection. Because they say, oh, we don't have any, it's not publicly exposed. So more and more vendors requires backdoors built into the equipments. So if the vendor comes up with the backdoors that is built into your equipments, so it is pretty difficult, you know. So whether you are internal or external. Another myth: employee operate OT equipment to manage production day to day. The fact is, operations are increasingly outsourced. So whenever you are outsourcing third-party vendor risk management, whether they are properly assessed or not, that is a question. So in earlier cases, if you see that today's IT and OT is merging. So IT and OT networks are connected. I have also, and in the future, convergence is fully integrated IT and OT environment will come. So obviously the risks will also increase a lot. Along with that, this is the modifications are going on. So this is some attack cycles that we already discussed. Cyber attack classifications into smart gates. You can see for reconnaissance, traffic analysis, social engineering. For scanning, there is IP scanning, port scanning. For exploitation, there are many ways. And for maintaining access is done through backdoors. Now, cyber attacks in smart grid and their impacts and their countermeasures. So some is listed over here, recon. In case of recon, there will be a traffic analysis. Traffic analysis. Countermeasures is secure your protocol, secure DNP3, PKI, implement TLS. For social engineering, also same. The attack example can be phishing. For scanning, like I have shown the demo, scanning IP port services. So the attack example can be Modbus DNP3 network scanning. And compromised application again can be devices that are running these protocols. So what is breached? Breached your confidentiality. Moving to exploitation, Trojans, backdoors, API, APT threats, these are for exploitations. So attack example, Stuxnet. I will discuss the case studies of the Stuxnet. And then we move to the next line exploitation. You can see the DOS attack, denial of service attacks. Okay, so compromised applications can be your advanced metering infrastructures and all. So availability will be in the questions. So how do you countermeasures? I mean, how do you detect? You need to have a proper managed SOC, IDS flow. You need to see entropy. You need to make sure you have some honeypots and all. Okay. So as you can see, there are many man in the middle attack. Concentrate on the second one. Eavesdropping means someone is sitting in between your traffic, I mean your end PCs or your network and in between server and sniffing or capturing all the network packets. So the compromised applications can be your SCADA, HMI, PLCs. So you need to secure your protocols. You need to apply encryptions wherever possible, TLS, SSL, and all. HMI. I have already shown you one HMI through Google Doc. So attack examples here is the SCADA, and your countermeasures will be, so detect these, implement DLP, data leakage prevent solution, intrusion detection system, SIEM, implement XDRs and all. And for maintaining access, the backdoors, also the countermeasures more or less remain same. So corporate SCADA networks are separated by firewalls. So firewall rules are properly you need to set, and no access to the SCADA network is allowed. So this should be actually, I'm presenting a case over here. So SCADA pen testing. So you have a corporate lens in left, you can see, and you have a SCADA network, and they are separated by a firewall. Okay, so you need to do a pen test on this. So briefly, what you should perform? Perform slow scan. Okay, so that on the well-known ports, using appropriate timing options, there are many timing options, slow scans, so that this cannot be detected by your intrusion devices, firewalls, and intrusion detection systems. Conduct network packet sniffing. Use SCADA assessments tools. Already discussed some exploit vulnerabilities. So here are some SCADA assessments tools I have listed down. Majorly open source. Nmap already I have shown you the demo for the Nmap. Think like an OT hacker. Both Lockheed Martin and MITRE have created such framework. So Lockheed Martin calls the framework as cyber kill chain, whereas MITRE call it as ATT and CK. So the Lockheed Martin framework is a little bit simpler. But remember, every attack, not all attacks requires the same. So these are some flow of attacks: recon, research, identify targets, weaponizations, creation of remote access malware, designed to exploit the systems. Then the delivery, transmission of weapon to target through delivery can be through emails, USBs, etc. Then exploitations, malware's weapons code triggered so that they exploit the identified vulnerabilities. Then malware installs remote access trojans. I was talking about that, or backdoor, so that is usable by the intruder. Then command and control, they establishes a connection, what you call also known as C2C, and then perform the what they wants to do, action and objective. Intruder now positions to take the actions and control and exfiltrate your data. So this is, I discussed a very brief about Lockheed Martin framework. This is also very popular one. So in graphical, you can see recon, harvesting data, password, delivery, installation, installing attack codes actually in the target assets, this full. And finally, you can see step 6 is a command and control for remote manipulation. So some checklist you can, are all factory default credential changed? Are all access to PLC whitelisted? Is physical access to SCADA control restricted? Are there any clear text services? So these all you need to check on. So in case of risk management, NIST Special Publication 800-37, you can follow for this framework. It's an exhaustive guidelines. So SCADA security controls, network segmentations and segregations, logical network separation enforced by encryptions, network segmentation, VLANs, these are very important, SSL, VPN, then unidirectional gateways, these restricts communication between connection to a single directions. These all are very important. Network traffic filtering. Traffic filtering basically restricts which systems are able to communicate with others. State-based filtering, these all port and protocol level filtering, application level filtering. Keep computers, devices, applications, including SCADA, industrial control systems, patched and up to date. Conduct vulnerability assessment on a regular basis. Use multi-factor authentications. Ensure you have proper firewall, XDRs, antivirus are there. Audit logs for all remote connection protocols. You're taking RDPs because in majority cases, these RDP logs are not investigated. So a CISO of an organization need to take care about these, that all RDP logs are properly kept in their custody, in his custody, so that later on proper incident response can be done. Manually identify software installed on all hosts, okay, like whether there are any VNC being used and all. Rule for general firewall rule, there are a lot of general rules. I'm not going into this. Practice for general firewall rule, these are very common practices. And one thing, all firewall policies should be tested periodically. So threat detection mitigation, asset tracking, vulnerability management, configuration control, enterprise visibility, these all together should work. Inventory and control, proper inventory controls, inventory of software assets, only IT assets, hardware assets not. You also need to have a proper inventory of software assets. This is just point number 2 I find missing in many organizations. I mean, power organization I'm talking about. Data protections, so common thing. I mean, this has to be there. Enforce data retention, protection, use encryption, encrypt sensitive data in rest and data in transit always should be encrypted. Deploy data loss preventions and all. Okay, and also the configuration, because then you need to check the proper configuration, secure configurations. Audit needs to be performed for all these devices. Account management. See, this what I just am discussing are majorly you will find also into your NIST guidelines. Okay. So account management, establish and maintain inventory accounts, use unique passwords, disable dormant accounts. These all will come into, because you cannot run the tools directly like over this way. So you have to check all the controls, whether security controls are implemented properly, whether in cases there is a business impacts, you need to check for outdated devices, sorry, whether compensating controls are implemented. And continuous vulnerability management should be there. Perform automated patch management, these all should be. Audit log management, this is also important. Network monitoring and defense, centralized security event log, connecting deploy host-based intrusion detections. These are manage access control, remote access. So these all should be there. Strong incident response is required management. Then VAPT is required. These are some tools that we use. Wireproof for detection of firewalls, type of firewall, Nessus for vulnerability scanning, Metasploit for exploitation frameworks, Bark Suite for manual testings, when you test internal applications, Hydra for password crackers, these all Kali Linux, so obviously. So for some of the tools, Nexpose, Nessus, OpenVAS, inside VMs, these are as vulnerability scanners, some screenshots of the Nessus. Guideline you should follow when you do these: OWSP top 10 2021 for applications, and for infrastructure threat assessment, NIST 800-115. This is even if the intranet application is running intranet as well as in the public facing, you should test whether there are any SSL vulnerabilities. Just use this SSL scan tool. It's a freely available. You can see that what all SSL protocols are enabled and disabled. You can clearly see these are scanned for the Google. Now, when you talk about exploiting vulnerabilities, there are a lot of frameworks available for exploiting vulnerabilities. Metasploit is also one of them. Uh, two uh, things I would like to discuss over here. Payload. Payload are the code that will leave behind on the hack system. So these payloads include cells, metapreters, and all. And exploits are basically cell code that takes advantage of a vulnerability or a flaw. So these two are things in common way. Exploit is what delivers the payload. Okay. So take a missile and an example. You have the rocket and fuel, and everything else is in the rocket. Okay. Then you have the warhead that does actual damage. So you see, the without the warhead, the missile does not do much when it hits, right? So the warhead is not much of use. It goes off the bunker without a rocket delivering it, right? So the delivery system, that is the missile, is the exploit, and the warhead is basically the what we know as a payload. So I'll just show a exploitation video. Uh, in a we have a vulnerable software running uh, chat server HTTPD 1.0. It is running on a target system. So after scan, it was found, and you see we got the shells, and we have switched on the webcam also by exploiting this. Just have a look on it. Scanning this IP 172.10.0.8. You can see that Easy Chat Server HTTP version 1.0 is running. I've already shown you the scanning, and you see this exploit is already available in this exploit framework, Metasploit, and you can see that it is vulnerable. Set rhost means remote host. I'm connecting to remote host. Exploit command exploit. Uh, you, you got the cell, Metapreter. As you can see, this is the cell. Okay, so I just type the cells and I can see the Windows, it's showing Windows version is running. I give dir command also, checking the IPs. I got the shell of these IPs. I'm trying to switch, see what all webcams is running. So Brio 100 model webcam is running into these devices. So I want to stream the webcam underscore stream. Yeah, I see the webcam stream now. So you have seen how this within fraction of seconds, these exploitations happened, right? So I asked my one of colleague Suraj Das to design, create a video for these. So he has created this one so that we can show some demos over here. So I have many other examples. I'm just keeping these at this moment. I'll move to Wireshark already I have talked about. I'll move to some regulatory guidelines and case studies now. Uh, Rootkits. rootkits are major, in case of powers and industrial control sectors, major sabotage and hacking happens through these rootkits. They are designed remotely to access controls, and they are, they know how to hide themselves. They don't got disruptions like that. Okay, so because the rootkit continually hides its presence, typical security procedure or mechanism, won't be effective to detecting this. So rootkit detections relies major on to your manual methods, as well as nowadays, the methods that should have AI based, and behavior anomaly based detection technology can detect the rootkits. So Trojan backdoors I already talked about. Uh, you know, uh, so little bit case study I'll discuss. This first case study Stuxnet. See how it is, which is ruined almost one-fifth of the Iran's nuclear power. So Stuxnet is basically old. It came into 2010. It's a malicious computer worm. First uncovered. I'm showing this because even though it is old, this is a very, one of the very popular attack that one of the popular attack that happened into power sector. So it's a malicious computer worm first discovered in 2010. This has caused substantial damage to nuclear program of the Iran. It is said that the worm is built jointly by US and Israel, but as such there is no proof, as you know. But it specifically targets Siemens PLC, which allows the automation of electromagnetic process. So how it happens? How does it functions? See, Stuxnet functions by targeting machines using Microsoft's Windows operating systems and networks, then seeking out Siemens Step 7 software. So, two conditions, Microsoft Windows and Siemens Step 7. So, it has three modules, worms, links, rootkits. So, worms execute all routine related main payload. We already discussed about what is payload. Then there is the link file. It automatically executes the propagated copies of the worm. Then you come the rootkit part. It is basically responsible for hiding all malicious files and process to prevent detection. Okay. So then how the attack started? So it started through an USB drive in a air gap system. Right. So we're talking about air gap systems also. So the one then propagates across the network, scans for the Siemens Step 7 software on computers controlling PLC. In the absence of either criterion, Stuxnet becomes dormant. It stays inside like. As I said, rootkits are basically not to cause disruption at the beginning. So if both the conditions are fulfilled, then Stuxnet introduces the infected rootkit into PLC and Step 7 software. What it does? It modifies the code and gives an unexpected command to PLC. While the unexpected command it has already thrown, it returns a normal loop to the operation guys who is seeing. So that means the values and all, the operation guy will see it's a normal values. But in the back end, unexpected comments, modification of code is being done. What damage it has done? Stuxnet reportedly compromised Iranian's PLCs, collecting information on industrial control system, causing the fast spinning centrifuge to tear them apart. So you can imagine the centrifuge got tear them apart just. So it ruined almost one-fifth of the Iran's nuclear centrifuge targeting industrial control systems. So it infected more than 2 lakhs computers, causing thousands of machines physically degrade. So their entire nuclear program was sabotaged. So what lesson we learn? Sophisticated threat like Stuxnet, can likely attack into any system. So the ability to detect, I was talking about incident response, and ability to recover from the attacks is very critical. Another case study, black energy. This is SCADA hijacking techniques. What is in December 2015, hackers compromised information system of 3 energy distribution companies in Ukraine. and temporarily disrupted their power supply. So the attacks impacted a huge number of customers, more than 2 lakhs numbers of customers. So a spear phishing mail with black energy malware were initial attack vectors. How did it start? Prior compromise of corporate networks using spear phishing emails. See, I'm talking about spear phishing. I'm not talking about only phishing. Spear phishing is more targeted attacks. That means a lot of research attacker has done. Obviously, the group does a lot of research in case of spear phishing attacks. Okay, so malicious Microsoft Office document that contain the malware to gain foothold into the network. So the malware harvested the credential of informations to gain access to ICS network. Then they seized SCADA under control, remotely switching the substation off, disabled the RTU modems, communicators, and all. Extracted files stored on the servers and workstations with Kildix malware. Kildix, you might have heard about, dangerous. So then launched a DOS attack on the call center to deny the consumers up-to-date information on the platform. So the call centers also, they also attached a DOS attack on the call centers, so that the up-to-date informations consumer cannot call them up and get up-to-date information. So you see, the power has a potential impact in case of generation, in case of transmission, in case of distribution, in case of network. So generation, transmission, distribution, these three units are very critical. Another case studies. This is a recent case study. Last year's publicly reported attack on Danish energy company, May 2023. Zyxel vulnerability was exploited. On 25th April, firewall devices producers Zyxel publicly announced that they have a vulnerability. The reported CVE is 2023 for the vulnerability in several of its devices. Now, the CVSS score, Common Vulnerability Scoring System, through which we rank the criticality of a vulnerability, the CVSS score was 9.8, means critical. And it was easy to exploit, and a huge impact can be created. On 1st May, advisory was released to patch, the Denmark's sectoral CERT has released these advisories to patch this vulnerability on Zyxel firewall. 11th May, first wave of attack started. 16 energy companies were targeted. This CV 2023-28771 was heavily exploited. Threat actor used specifically designed data packets to port 500 over UDP protocols to vulnerable these devices. The packet was sent to the Internet Key Exchange packet decoder on vulnerable devices. So it allowed attackers to execute commands with root privilege on the devices without the need of authentication. So, see, the root privilege was obtained by exploiting this vulnerability. This is the recent case studies. Now you talk about the emerging threats into cybersecurity and in power sectors. These are very emerging. There are many, but I have just listed few considering the time. We have 2 hours. So APT, fileless malware, ransomware threats we know about, phishings and all. So advanced persistent threat is a broad term used to describe an attack campaign in which intruder establishes an illegal long-term presence into the network, and they continuously change their code and methodology so that they cannot be detected easily. So APT threats are heavily into power sector. I have seen many incident responses We did it for many incident responses for many power sectors, and we found there are many APT threat actors from China's, North Korea's, Bulgaria, Russia, Czechoslovakia. We have seen those. So consequences of such intrusions are the sabotage of your critical organizations. So in power sector, APT detection of APT is very, very, very important. Because also it's very difficult to detect and remove. So 6 steps of an APT attacks. Threat actor gains entry into emails, network file and all, inserts malware into organization's network. The moment malware is inserted, now the network is considered compromised. But mind that network is compromised but not breachable, not breached. Step 2, the malware probes additional network access and vulnerabilities. Then it communicates to CNC server, outer wall. Malware typically establishes additional point of compromise because you can see this is a risk mitigation for them because if the one point of compromise by chance gets not available, in that case they will communicate through other point of compromise and establish CNC. So communicate with CNC server, receive additional instructions, ensure that cyber attack can continue in one point. If one point, as I was saying, if one point is closed, intruders have the hands-on keyboards access inside the target environment. Step 4, once threat actor determines that they have established reliable network access at multiple points, they target to gather data, steal passwords, SSL credentials and all. They also tries to steal the encrypted passwords, tries to crack them. Now threat actor can access the data. Malware collects data on staging server. Finally, exfiltrates data on the network under full control of the threat actor. Evidence of the APT attack. As I was talking about the attack strategy, that 5 steps, you can relate it now. The last step was removal, of logs. Evidence of APT attack is removed, but network remain compromised. This is very crucial. Evidence is removed, network remain compromised. At this point, network is considered breached. So at this point, we will consider it as a breached now. Now the hackers can return anytime and continue the data breach. And these are the reasons why preventing APT attacks is critical and difficult, equally critical and difficult for the organizations. Another terminology you will find out over here is the lateral movement. So the lateral movement is a technique used by hackers. Once they gain access in a system, they just hop on from one system to another like that. Okay, so once they enter into the network, they maintain their access by moving further within the compromised environment. So you will often you will come across this terminology, lateral movement. So they dumps credentials and privilege exclusions, keylogging, pass the hash attacks. Okay, these are techniques they use. Now, preventions, I'll say patch your ways, have XDRs and all, have firewalls, have intrusion detection systems, have threat intelligence device, advanced threat intelligence device that not only relies on signature based, but also relies on behavioral anomaly detections. Because signatures can be easily bypassed. Okay. So that's what I was talking about, real-time threat detections, network visualizations, advanced investigation capabilities, AI and ML-based threat intelligence device that you need to use. There are many devices. Another is the fileless malware. So unlike file-based attacks, the fileless malware does not leverage any traditional executive methods. So they abuse tools built into the operating systems. Like we have a PowerShell built in. We have WMI built in, Windows Management Instrumentation. We have .NET Framework built in the systems. So, okay, we have macros in our Office documents. So they leverage all this. So ransomware is massive, as you know. Delivery, infection, installation, disable defense, phone pay, and encrypt data. This is the phases of ransomware. Delivery can be done through phishing emails, botnet. You download something, some attachments, and all. Then infection starts. Then it installs. Install what? It installs the malware. Okay, and then it disable your defense. Phone him means it calls to its command and control server, the controlling server. Then it encrypts your data, then demands ransom, then asks for the support services. This is, if you pay, they release, say, but don't ever pay. It's my advice, don't pay to that. You will encourage these guys. Okay, then they ask for the pay, you know. So I have a case studies for Lockheed ransomware, but I won't discuss it now due to constraint of time. I'll move to, as you know, the distributed DOS attacks are also very common into sabotage the industrial control systems. Uh, as I said, DLP, strategy recommendation, you need to have a DLP. You need to have a patch management solutions properly. You need to have a SIEM and regularly monitoring the SIEM. As you know, SIEM collects logs from all the devices and it has a correlation engine. Threat intelligence devices with AI and ML based anomaly behavior detection tools. You know, these types of devices can prevent APT attack up to a huge, large extent actually. Periodic VAPT to be conducted. Implement standards like ISO 27. So people, process and technology together should work. Now moving to standards and framework for ICS security. See, when you talk about standards, NIST, there are many. And yeah, I will only choose few maybe. So NIST has 882 guidelines for industrial control systems. IEC 62443 has a series of standards that addresses security for OT technology in automation and control systems. Then you have CIS controls also. So guidelines you can use, cybersecurity infrastructure security, CISA. CISA, US Department of Homeland Security, they have a lot of guidelines. Central Electricity Authority of India. This is the India specific guideline since we are into India conducting these sessions. And I was also requested from Aishaka Bangalore to talk about this India-centric guidelines, which is also important for us like auditors. And I believe it will, help you guys, everyone. So these guidelines are also there. Several infrastructure sectors have other frameworks tailor-made for their requirement. North America Electric Reliability, they have a framework. Critical infrastructure protections, NERC CIP. US Nuclear Regulation Commissions have a framework for nuclear power sectors. Australian government also has a Critical Infrastructure Center, CIC, compliance strategy frameworks. So then industrial internet security framework, cross-industry. Because cross-industry by default will come, right? So cross-industry frameworks are there. So Cloud Security Alliance has a IoT security controls. NIST has created a test bed also for IoT and cyber physical systems. CIS controls are there for ICS. You can use that. Internet of Things companion guideline is also there and ICS companion guideline. These two guidelines are pretty good. You can use this. I mean, these are also there. Another standard 62443, security for operational technology. This is I want to little bit elaborate. So this is a series, is a wide-ranging collection for multi-industry standards. This defines a set of cybersecurity protocol method and technique for ICS. So there are four primary, if you see these, there are four primary sections. Section 1's 62443.1 is a general section dealing with terminology, models, metrics, Section 2 deals with policies and procedures. It is also further divided into 4 subsections. Section 3 is concerned about security from a system perspective. Okay, and it has 3 subsections. It deals with security, technology, and all. Section 4 is concerned with security of components that makes up the system. Section 4 is important, very. See, it basically deals with the security of components that makes up the system. Okay, so little bit breakdown on this. I'm directly moving to the breakdown part. So in breakdown, if you see section 1, terminology, concepts, models, 2.1 establishes security programs, 2.3 patch management, 2.4 security program requirement, 3.1 security technologies, 3.2 security risk assessment for secure design, 3.3 security, requirement and security levels. I'll come to these levels. 4, security product development lifecycle relies on 4.1. 4.2, technical security requirement for IaaS components. These are, in brief, this is. So standard classifies technical requirement for the product. Okay, developed in accordance with this 4.2. Now you see the security levels. Level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1.1, let me explain these. These standard classifies that the technical requirement for product developed in accordance with 62443.4.2 are assigned security levels according to their resistance against different types of attacks. So this clause 4.2 is saying that you assign security level according to the resistance against different attack types. And 1.1 states that these levels are to be assigned to each requirement. Mind that each requirement rather than a complete product. So these levels are to be assigned for each requirement. So what now talks about the level. Level 0, where no special requirement or protection is required. Level 1, security level 1, where protection against unintentional or accidental misuse is enabled. Level 2, where protection against intentional misuse by simple means or few resources is required. Level 3 talks about where protection against intentional misuse by sophisticated means with moderate resources, knowledge. If someone has some knowledge on this, that then that case will come to security level 3, and level 4, where protection against intentional misuse using sophisticated means and extensive resources and for high motivated is allowed. So it's also indirectly talking about the internal, I mean the level 4 is also indirectly talking about the internal threats, internal employee threats, disgruntled employees and all. So initial level, there are maturity levels. So maturity levels are, like this: level 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, well, if we compare these, ISO 27001 is basically potentially complementary to these, because ISO is applied to organization, whereas this 62443 is basically applies to majorly products. It focuses on systems and system components and their products. Now, Central Electricity Authority Cybersecurity Guideline, they have released a guidelines. Ministry of Power has directed the CA to prepare a guidelines. The guidelines was it's a exhaustive guideline, not at all possible, even if to discuss this in 6 hours. The guidelines was prepared in consultation with certain National Critical Information Infrastructure Protections, NSCS, IIT Kanpur, and officials with the Ministry of Power. Okay. So moving to directly guidelines. Guidelines applies to all responsible entities, system integrators, equipment manufacturers in power sectors and service providers. So there are sectoral SART, let me tell you. So Ministry of Power has created 6 sectoral SART: thermal, hydro, transmission, grid operation, then responsible entities and distribution. This is what is little bit hierarchy looks like. So this guideline is basically we audit based on these guidelines, and these guidelines to be followed by all energy and power sectors. And these already I have talked about where these all applies in all system integrators, your responsible entities, supplier, vendors. Now, these all will come into these pictures. So the guideline has divided into 14 articles. The guideline focuses on strengthening the cybersecurity posture of OT and IT system across the power, generation, transmission, and distribution. All three these units. Okay. So it talks about cybersecurity policies, talks about appointment CISO, it talks about identification of critical informations. So let's move to principles. Article 1. Hard isolation of OT system from any internet facing system. Only one IT system, if required, may be internet facing and must be isolated from OT zones. Data transfer from any internet facing system must be done with using whitelisted devices. So this is Article 1. Article 2 talks about responsible entity shall mandatorily appoint a CISO. 3 talks about identification of critical informations. You need to identify, submit to NCA IPC through sectoral SART, details of your assets. This is basically identification of critical information infrastructures. So submit details of critical business process and all to NCA IPC. Ensure all assets and identified notified CIs are recorded in your asset register. Article 4 talks about electronic security perimeter. Identify and document electronic security perimeter and all access points. Perform a cyber vulnerability assessment in every 6 months for all access points. Ensure that all critical high medium vulnerabilities are identified and fixed and closed over the time. 5 talks about cybersecurity requirements. Responsible entity shall have information security division headed by CISO. They should have an information security division and headed by CISO. ISD must be functional for 24/7/365. Ensure on timely action upon advisories. Article 6 talks about cyber risk management and mitigation. Document cybersecurity policy, cyber risk assessment, mitigation plan. Get them approved by the board of directors. Clearly define the metrics for accessing the cyber risks for both IT and OT. It's not like that I'm only doing it for OT or ICS. No, because powerhouse, energy distribution, they also have IT infrastructures. And CISO shall be responsible for implementation of this all. Phasing out legacy system. This is very important. Ensure all legacy systems are upgraded gradually. Ensure information security division shall draw a list of commutable equipments nearing the end of life without support. This is very important. Nearing the end of life without support from the OEM. Training should be conducted periodically. Ensure trainings programs are designed. If you see the guideline, they have also given the topics for the training. This includes ISO 27K and threats into SCADA, OT, and ICS systems and all. These all should cover into training. Then 9 talks about cyber supply chain risk management. Ensure as and when Ministry of GUI notifies, these all are included in every bid, every tender they release. Ensure the essential cybersecurity tests are carried out successfully during factory assessment test. Point number 2 is very important. This ensure, this CISO need to ensure this. Dispose all obsolete communicable intelligence devices. Article 10, cybersecurity incident review reports and response plans should be robust. CISO should be responsible for this entity, and CISO shall report in the format prescribed by the CERT. Root cause analysis of all reportable events shall be carried out and corrective actions should be taken. Okay. And CISO should have, point number 3 is also important. CISO should ensure all, that each cyber incident handled strictly as per their policy and plan details. Their cyber crisis management plan details should be approved by the board of directors. Crisis management plan, prepare a cyber crisis management plan and submit it to the sectoral CERT for the review.
Hi, Abid. Just a reminder that we have another 10 minutes to wrap up.
Yes.
So I'm just guessing 5
Yeah.
minutes for Q&A. So maybe we can focus on the
Sure.
elements. Thanks.
Point number 12 talks about sabotage percentage reporting. Point number 13 talks about security and testings of cyber assets. 14 talks about cybersecurity audit, regular audits, frameworks, guidelines should be implemented. Audits should be done every 6 months by certain empaneled vendor. And these are a list of the designated laboratories in India for cybersecurity confirmation testings. Conformance testings, actually. You can see the communication protocols and all, these should be tested in these labs. Designated laboratories are there. There are many other practices for CISA, ICS. I recommend you go through these and, these OT cybersecurity framework, you can find it into the internet. Threat framework, industry specific resources, best practices, these are there. And also for OT cyber resources, you will find a lot of guidelines into NIST, and NIST also has many guidelines. Few I have mentioned over here, 80082 and 80053. So that's all from my side. Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for any
Thanks,
questions.
thanks so much for bringing in this wonderful perspective. In fact, many of them, some of the questions are in the Q&A window. Maybe you could probably take that and just have a check, or I would be happy to read out some of them.
Can you read it out? It will help me.
Okay, so Balakrishna says, in the government sector, how do we address setting up the cybersecurity policy, regularly conducting risk assessment, and implementing some of these frameworks? What have been your thoughts, and maybe how do you align strategy with the national critical infrastructure?
See, nowadays already guideline came, right? I already touched upon few points, that 14 points on the guidelines. The guideline is a exhaustive guideline, 24 pages guideline. And there are many micro level breakdown also. And
Okay.
also you take the help of the NIST 80082. That's also breaks it down into your multiple level. And when you design the policies, you align it with the Ministry of Power guideline. They have gives clearly written how to align that.
Lovely. I think that's a useful answer. While I'm answering the questions and clarification, I've just shared the URL link for the feedback, the Menti link. So participants, please kindly give your valuable feedback based on which we improvise every session. The next thing is, what is the tool starting with PROTDB? One of them asked this question.
Those are basically, ICS tools. So when I am talking about tools, so you maybe find that those are written into Python.
Okay.
Simply .py files.
Understood.
Maybe written into Ruby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Clear. Is there a way in which you would be sharing this presentation? Again, that's totally your call, because some participants wanted to see if that is.
See, these are intellectual property for the company's slides.
Understood. Understood.
But okay, I will try to share
If there
a
is a
detailed
possible way in
question.
which something can be shared, we would appreciate, but we totally respect your.
I will some
Sure, sure.
modified version.
Thank you. Appreciate that. The next thing is there some sort of a mapping with the requirements like NIST 27001, ISO, IEC 62443 and things like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mapping is there. Definitely, definitely.
Okay. And is there something publicly available where can somebody read that, or is that
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah. Publicly available. I have seen fews are publicly available, not all.
not all of them?
I have seen you go to any NIST site,
Okay.
you can get few, and
Come on.
CIS also have aligned few.
Sure, sure. The other question which we had from Sampath is, um, mention that the levels are defined, but it's difficult to distinguish between level one unintentional level and intentional breach. So how can this be handled in a real life security scenario?
So unintentional. Can you repeat unintentional? Sorry.
So some of these scenarios can be of different categories of breach, right? It is mentioned that levels are defined, but it is very difficult to distinguish between level one unintentional and intentional breach. Is there a way in which that has been handled in the past?
Yeah, yeah. See, intentional breach, when you talk about, I can understand unintentional and unintentional. There's a line between there. See, when you do the incident response properly, if you have a proper incident response plans, if you keep the logs properly, for every actions, majority of the critical assets,
Okay,
you can identify the motives, whether
okay,
it was intentional and whether it was unintentional.
got it.
Because an employee is accessing this, is doing this, what he is not supposed to do, those things, and in that case, that can be classified as intentional.
Oh, oh, sorry. This is
Sampath Kumar,
Raghav
I've just
actually.
enabled you
I
to
actually posed that question, but
please go ahead.
somehow Sampath Kumar's name is coming there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
My actual question was that at the time of defining, how do you know intentional and intentional? Because what your answer was telling, when the breach happens or when compromise happens, then you can find out whether it was unintentional. But at the time of going for my setting my levels of doing that, how do I define it? How it won't be there won't be a mechanism by which I know whether this can be compromised intentionally or unintentionally. And many times the unintentional one turns out to be intentional.
No, no, I understand. I understand what your points. But thing is, we have seen from our sides, PowerShell. PowerShell is not disabled, but someone is using PowerShell and trying to gather information, and that has been tagged into your XDR or logs. And as per the policies, these services should not be opened and should not be carved for the data. So using PowerShell, someone is trying to see what all patches has been there, right? Hot fixes. Whereas that is not his job majorly. So there are many scenarios. These are little bit complex scenarios also. Uh, so in that case, why he is opening that? Even if there is a control not implemented, suppose the CISO has forgotten, or it has not been, if this control has not been implemented, that PowerShell to be blocked, but then someone is doing reconnaissance activity, information gathering activity using PowerShell, should come into a question. What is the purpose? What is the motive? And that too in a critical sector like power.
got it. One other follow-up question, CSET, does it work on Windows or a Linux environment? Maybe you want to throw some light.
CSCT works on Windows
Windows.
majorly. I believe also works on Linux also, but we used majorly into Windows as per the requirement.
Got it. Got it. So I think that's mostly what questions we have had. Thank you so much, Abir. I think a lot of this were very practical, especially when you were trying to show some of the portals. I totally understand your disclaimer which you made, right? Giving from a in knowledge and educational perspective. Hopefully, everybody treats it from that particular angle as well. With this, we come to the end of the last CPE session for this year 2024. Hoping that we see you soon with some more exciting sessions, some more interactive conversations, and some more interesting questions and activities in the coming calendar year 2025. On that note, I'll quickly hand it over to Vishesh in case you want to give your concluding remarks and vote of thanks. Thank you so much for being a lovely and a patient audience. Sincere thanks to Abir for taking your time.
Pleasure.
I know
My
you've been
pleasure.
traveling and you're, in a hotel, but I think really appreciate the way you've taken the
It's
call.
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you everyone for being a wonderful audience today. Please do give us the feedback using the Mentimeter link on your screen. You can also scan the QR to open the link, and please do submit a feedback about how you found the session. Moving on, your insights are valuable to us and will help us curate more impactful experiences. Thank you for your time and support, sir. And also, thank you for the inspiring and insightful session. Your extensive expertise and in-depth analysis truly made this session stand out among our CPE events. We also deeply appreciate the clarity and thoughtfulness with which you address the audience's questions. To everyone else, thank you for your active participation and engagement, which added vibrancy and value to the session. A special note of gratitude to the ISACA Bangalore chapter for organizing this enriching CPE session and fostering continuous professional development within our community. Thank you all once again and have a wonderful evening. I now pass it to Vijaya ma'am in case she'd like to say something.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And thank you, sir. Your session was amazingly good. And a very happy new year to all of you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you.